We spoke about creating a sitemap for application. Today, I want to focus on creating the forms that we interact with. Now, just as I said, and I'll just put up my screen again so we can see where we left off last time. So this is where we left off. We talked about how to create a sitemap and we created different sitemaps. Now, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, I'll just hit play right there. And this will sort of start giving you an idea of what our application looks like. So if you've used Dynamics before, this will look very, very familiar. Now, here's our place where we can track all our quotes, our active ones and our inactive invoice. We can track our quotes. We can create different dashboards, and already notice it's already created a predefined dashboard with my activity and all. And all our customers. Now, remember the groups that we spoke about? This is the different groups, and now the different sub areas. These are the sub areas, and then the larger. This is where it is. This is Sales Hub. So now, let's say we want to create an account. The first thing is we'll go create a new account. Now, notice that PowerApps already has pre-created a very interesting form that I can put in data. So I can put in my account information, the address. It already has a map there, a timeline of what we've done with them, who's the primary contact, and by default already knows who I am. And this is powered from Active Directory. Number of employees, annual revenue. Now, everything you see on this screen can be fully customized into how you want it set up, how want you set up. So today we're going to show you how to do that, and we'll work on the invoices and quotes. Now remember, how we do this is by making sure that we have the right data points inside our common data service. Now the reason the invoice today just has an invoice name and owner, because that's the only thing that we have. So if we go back here to makepowerapps.com. Now, if we go back to our data, one of the interesting things you'll see is that our invoice table, and I'll just go invoice entity. Notice the only columns that are custom here is the invoice name, and actually it's the only one, and we'll pick the owner. Now, for us to have the rich information we want about invoice, we have to pre-populate this this table. So like we can add interesting things like what we have in currencies, in invoices. Let's start with the currency. So let's put our currency there, and we'll track it as a currency right there. And now here's some of the interesting things about PowerApps. It'll already know. By the time I'm adding currency, by default, there's things like exchange rates. So I'll put in my currency there. I'll not add a description, but you can do that and just hit my save table. Now, that starts allowing you to add fields that you can start pre-populating there. Now remember, we did, I don't know if we created a relationship, so let's just save this for a second. Now, if you think about creating a business application, one of the interesting things about invoices, an invoice has to be attached to a customer. So one of the first things we'll come here and do is create a relationship, add a relationship, and say we want a many-to-one relationship with our customer, which is our account. So notice the same account across all. So let's just hit done, hit save table. And as that loads, you now find that we can add interesting things. So our invoices, let's just refresh that. Let's go to our invoices form. Now you can edit different things, charts, views, and dashboards. Today I want to edit this form. Now, what is this form? So just click that edit button there, and this pops up, and you can start editing. Now, I chose to use a classical editor. You can use a more modern one where you can do a drag and drop, but I feel like this is more interesting to me. And I guess because I'm also familiar with this. Now notice this is the same form that we saw earlier, right? This is where we define what our new invoice. So let's call this form. It's not information, it's a new invoice. Just call it a form for new invoice. Form for new invoice, hit save. And what do we want to store in this? So we have the invoice name of the customer. Now I'm going to change this view real quick. And just switch it to 2 columns because I love to do that, and just call this section our customer. Who is this invoice for? And once we add a section there called customer, we can start adding feeds. So let's add like account. So right there, we can start associating any invoice we have with our customer now. what other stuff that I wanna put in? Let's add a new section. So we'll go back here and let's add a quick column section, and we'll call this the details. I'm not gonna put much in there, but in the details we'll add things like who was this created by, when was it created, exchange rate, was this is modified by that, and then we want to add in the form up here. Let's put a status. Is this an actual active invoice or not? And just like that, we've created a form where we can put in interesting data. Now let's just hit save, hit publish. Let's put that aside while that saves, and that's done. And we can start looking at our application again. Now let's go back to the application itself, and we were creating an invoice. Now if I click new, and I click new invoice, you start seeing that right there, and then I can put in my name. Let's just test invoice. We can attach this. We can look up a new customer. If we have an existing database of customers, we can add it there, or right there, it allows me to create a new customer. And this is what's called a quick create view. So I can put in a customer called test account, test customer, however you want to do it. I can say number of employees, 10 employees. I can put in a description, an address, and just hit save and close. And right there, you've created a customer, your first customer, and this will actually show up on your accounts list. The exchange rate will be defined later on, and we'll talk about how that does. And it will automatically track what we created, right? And when it was created. So let's just hit save. And right there, we've created our first invoice. Now, I know I haven't put in the amount, and I'm sure some of you will kill me, but we'll put in all the fields. Now, remember, you have to go put this in your common data service for it to show up here. Now, let's say, fine, we've created an invoice, but we want to attach this to a business process. We'll talk about that next time, so see you on the next one.